Hello, guys, welcome. And so I'll continue with my series here. We are at numbered section 3 of Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. So I'll read it and then I'll try to explain it and let's see how well I do. Having kept a close eye on philosophers and read between their lines for a sufficient length of time, I tell myself the greater part of conscious thinking must still be counted among the instinctive activities, and this is so even in the case of philosophical thinking. We have to learn differently here as we have learned differently in regard to heredity and the innate. Just as the act of being born plays no part in the procedure and progress of heredity, so, being conscious is in no decisive sense the opposite of the instinctive. Most of a philosopher's conscious thinking is secretly directed and compelled into definite channels by his instincts. Behind all logic, too, and its apparent autonomy, there stand evaluations. In plainer terms, physiological demands for the preservation of a certain species of life. For example, that the definite shall be of greater value than the indefinite, appearance of less value than truth. But such valuations as these could, their regulatory importance for us notwithstanding, be no more than foreground valuations, a certain species of niaiserie which may be necessary precisely for the preservation of beings such as us, assuming that is to say that it is not precisely man who is the measure of things. So, okay, there are a few things here. First of all, what is conscious thinking that he talks about? So, take for example a philosopher who has sat down to understand reality and write a book about it. So, what he plans to do is understand reality as it is. It doesn't matter what a philosopher thinks how reality is like, or he feels how reality is like. Philosopher's job is to so there are uh, there are few things here. First of all, what is this conscious thinking that he talks about? So let's take an example. Philosophers, their job is to think, they are thinkers, and it doesn't matter, and let whatever topic they choose, mostly which is this reality around us, their job is to understand it, their job is to explain it, their job is to know what the hell is going on, and they do it, they think about it, and they think about it consciously. It doesn't matter what they feel, it doesn't matter what they think. What matters is truth matters. The job is to go after the truth through reason, through deliberation, through logic, through thinking. They think. And Nietzsche says that, okay, But are you really thinking? Are you really consciously thinking about the truth, the reality? Or is it just your instincts, which are actually the driving force, and you just think that it's you who's actually reached your conclusions through deliberate reasoning? He compares it with the act of being born. So, whenever a person is born, we see them come into the world, and there they are. But who they are has nothing to do with being born. It was who they are in the sense genetically. Who they are genetically was decided a long time ago through the chain through which that person has come into the world. Their parents of their parents, parents of their parents, and till eternity. So it was a long chain that has uh, stopped or exploded into their birth, and but all we see is their birth. All we see is their birth, but there's a long history, a long story behind it. And so is the case for conscious thinking. We see works of philosophers, we see their book, we see their ideas, but and we think that it's reasonable, it's conscious, it's logical, but behind it there's a long story which is based in our instincts and which is based in our unconscious. During Nietzsche's time, there was nothing. The idea of the unconscious, it wasn't developed the way we know it as we know it now, but it's something of the sort. That's what he's talking about. And and then and then later he says, to what end, you could ask, so why are we really are insistent, whatever the conclusions that philosophers have drawn about reality, then why do people or philosophers landed on these conclusions like that truth is greater than appearance, and good is greater than evil, or definite is above indefinite, order above chaos. These they haven't landed on these conclusions based on logic or reason, or this isn't true in the ultimate sense. It is only true to the extent that it helps uh, survival of a certain kind of species or people. This is true, but not really true. Our drives, our instincts, the unconscious, which whose job is to our body, our biology, whose job is to live, to survive. They have it's they have channeled, they have forced us to think in this direction. It may not be uh, objectively, ultimately true, true in the ultimate sense. And it's if it's true in the ultimate sense, it would mean that man is the measure of all things. But saying that is, but that's a terrible thing to say, because if that is true, uh, it's a bleak word out there then. And also he is kind of, he's pointing out a contradiction here. Philosophers, they say that truth is the highest value, and that true reality, true morality, true uh, anything which is true in the ultimate sense is beyond us, and we are supposed to align ourselves towards it. We don't decide what's right, we don't decide what's wrong, what's correct, what's incorrect. It's there in the sky, or it's there uh, somewhere deep within us, or anywhere, but not us. But they also seem to forget the fact that it's us that is making this claim. And if we are not the measure of all things, how have we measured truth so correctly? There is a sort of contradiction here, and he's saying, well, it's right. It's We don't need to really worry about the conclusions, but we only need to worry about how true they are, and they're only true to the extent that they help us survive. So that is the point here, and I hope I've not misunderstood it and misexplained it. But anyway, I'll read it again, once again, for you guys, and we'll be done. Having kept a close eye on philosophers and read between their lines for a sufficient length of time, I tell myself the great part of conscious thinking must still be counted among the instinctive activities, and this is so even in the case of philosophical thinking. We have to learn differently here, as we have learned differently in regard to heredity and the innate, just as the act of being born plays no part in the procedure and progress of heredity. So, being conscious is in no decisive sense the opposite of the instinctive. Most of a philosopher's conscious thinking is secretly directed and compelled into definite channels by his instincts. Behind all logic, too, and its apparent autonomy, there stands evaluation. In plainer terms, physiological demands for the preservation of a certain species of life. For example, that the definite shall be of greater value than the indefinite, appearance of less value than truth. But such valuations as these could, their regulatory importance for us notwithstanding, be no more than foreground valuations. A certain species of niaisiri, which may be necessary precisely for the preservation of beings such as us. Assuming, that is to say, that it is not precisely man who is the measure of things. Okay, so this was it. Thank you.